What's going on in Gaza is the worst, most horrific, most mind-shattering thing that's happened in my lifetime, because one's seeing it as it happens. And then the other side of that is the complete silence from Western leaders. Just horrendous. How could they talk seriously about democracy? That's gone out the window now. It just doesn't exist, because you can see that this is a genocide happening. I think at the moment, one of the main things about the art world is this question of Gaza, because exhibitions have been shut down. People aren't allowed to make any mention of it. People that are in the art market have problems signing letters supporting Gaza because their collectors and their galleries don't want them to do it, which is disgusting. I mean, I think it's really important that artists speak out on Gaza, because this is going to go down in history as the most horrific event that most of us have lived through, post-Hiroshima generation. I first met Banksy at a Days of Confused show. We both had anti-war work, and he actually painted across the road from the gallery the one of a soldier painting a peace symbol. And then our paths crossed in different ways. Showed stuff in Santa's Ghetto in Oxford Street. I went to Palestine with a group of artists. We went to Bethlehem and set up a gallery in Manger Square and had Palestinian artists and artists from Europe and America as well. Banksy had made a series of watchtowers out of wood. He'd had made by a Palestinian craftsman, and I got a lot of Coke cans, bent them round the watchtower, which is a simple dialectic between American capitalism and who was funding Israel. The stuff we made in Bethlehem, all the money stayed there for Palestinian children, for art projects and things with them. I've had people saying to me they think I'm Banksy, as if at my age I could be crawling up buildings. I mean, the other thing, I get emails saying, Pete, I really like what you're doing, but you've ripped off Banksy. And some of his work is similar to mine, especially the landscape pictures. I write back and say, well, actually, he wasn't even in nappies when I did that picture. My work happened during the Cold War. I wanted to document it with a point of view, and that's what montage is all about. So that's why I started making much clearer montages that brought two elements together to create a third meaning, showing a reality that's usually hidden. You've got all these lies being told that you can then try and split open by tearing photographs and pushing photographs together. The idea at art school was that you're a lone individual sitting in a studio waiting for a sort of divine inspiration to come from the ceiling. And that's not my idea of what art was about. I actually believe it can be totally engaged in the everyday, that one's got one's fingers on the pulse of what's happening. So I started working for magazines and newspapers. And of course, at that time, there was a big underground press, there was a big left press. There was trade unions were doing very strong magazines, almost monthly. It was a different time. There was a great print media. And then later I got involved with CND, Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. And of course then it was a tiny little group. I remember going to see them, and they had one tiny room with people sort of sitting on the floor. And then within 2 years it was a massive movement with demonstrations of 250,000 people. There was a big anti-nuclear campaign going on, but often the books and the posters just copied the pictures that were showing the explosion. So it's almost like the nuclear explosion had become normalized. I wanted to get hold of these images and break them and pull them apart and show a possibility of destroying them before they destroyed us. In 1980, I did the hand clutching the missile. That was actually done for a Labour Party rally, believe it or not, because you wouldn't get any, there's nothing like that now, obviously. It's not a Labour Party anymore, it's nothing I recognise as a Labour Party. I think Keir Starmer is a robotic member of the capitalist class. I did a lot of work about the working class struggles that were going on. I did work about the strike in Grunwick, and later on did work for the miners' strike. And then made lots of work about the NHS, which was already being destroyed, going back 30 years. All these sort of things were what was happening. So I took on each thing as it happened. And I've just felt that that's part of my life. And it's a form of action. It's really important not to leave image making to neoliberalism and the capitalist state. And don't leave all the images to them, but actually to make work fighting them saying there is another world possible. With this exhibition I've got at Whitechapel, people have said, oh, you must be proud to see all your work. I think pride is one of the last things I feel, because all the issues I've dealt with are still here today, and they're here in a more horrendous way. I mean, nuclear weapons, we thought in 1989 when the wall came down that there would be a peace dividend. What we've got now is even more horrendous. It's terrifying. Sometimes I do wonder about the world we've got is the world that's going to be amplified more and more, which is what is happening in Gaza, what's happening in Ukraine now, what's happening everywhere, you know, things that are building up. And it takes you back to that Yeats poem. The worst are full of a passionate intensity, while the best lack all conviction. So I think one's got to argue with that and say all the young people that are now questioning things much younger than when I did can take over and do something. We've just got to work more and more collectively against all the shit that's being thrown at us. The idea of art changing the world in itself is not something that happens. No work in itself is going to change anything. It's what it's allied with. I think of myself as someone that is not just an independent artist. I'm part of the movements trying to make the world better. Hopefully that's useful. People have come up to me and said, I saw your work 30 years ago for Amnesty or CND or something, and then I got politicized. I joined them. It's one of the things about an image. It's something that someone can see in 3 seconds. People who aren't going to sit down and read Chomsky or whatever, but that 3 seconds will imprint them and hopefully will question all the horrendous advertising that we're bombarded with and the horrendous sort of lies of the politicians. It's a questioning thing, and I think that's hopefully has some input. People say to me, well, what good's it? You know, you've been wasting your time for 55 years because the world's got worse, which is true. But there's a wider criticism of the world amongst people and amongst young people now, especially with Gaza. They're not lost causes. People say you're the king of lost causes and all this sort of crap. But the dissident voice is always important. It's like Brecht's poem, in the dark times will there still be singing? Yes, they will be singing about the dark times. My exhibition, Archive of Dissent, is on at the Whitechapel Gallery till January the 9th, and it's free. And there is also a free newspaper being given out, which has got 10 poster-size pages. The Whitechapel Gallery is in the East End. It's just down the road from Cable Street, and it's a really important place that isn't part of a metropolitan elite in any way.